try this.
Coming to DARPA is like grabbing the nose cone of a rocket and holding on for dear life.
DARPA is a place where if you don't invent the internet, you only get a B.
DARPA program manager quite literally invents tomorrow.
We are thinking about innovation unconstrained. Where can we go?
Predict what is emerging as threats.
We're looking for the applications that seem impossible.
That passion will be saving lives 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Coming to work every day and being humbled by that.
The innovation and collaboration is a team effort.
We're not builders of the ultimate technologies.
The engineers and scientists at the companies and universities that we fund that ultimately are going to bend metal and write code and deliver these capabilities to the fund.
DARPA is not one person or one place. It's a collection of people that are excited about moving technology forward.
All right. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar with DARPA on behalf of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to welcome all of you for attending today. We have a very special guest, Jennifer Thabet from DARPA Small Business Offices with us. And we also have Prashant Shah, who is the president of CloudLeap Technologies and our sponsor of today's webinar. I'm going to quickly do a spiel on the Asian American Chamber of Commerce. It's a nonprofit. We serve businesses primarily in the DC metro area, but really we're open to everybody. The pandemic changed that. So we put these webinars together for any and all businesses that would like to grow and do business with the government. If you're not already a member of the chamber, we encourage you to join because you get the opportunity to network, and being in the DC metro area, you get to meet with all the government contractors if you're outside of our immediate, not in the DC metro area, and you want to network with our companies. Great chamber to be part of. So I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm your host for today, Reena Bhatia. I'm part of the board on the Asian American Chamber of Commerce. I'm also the CEO of ProposalHelper and BidExecs. Our sponsor today is Prashant Shah, and I'm going to have him introduce himself, and he will introduce our amazing guests. So Prashant, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hi, my name is Prashant Shah, and I'm the president of CloudLeap Technologies. We are based out of bwtech at UMBC in Maryland. We are a Sammy Award-winning company that provides big data engineering, data analytics, data ops, machine learning, AI, NLP, and RPA services to the federal and state government. We also design and develop open source agile solutions to meet the unique needs and requirements of our clients, and also provide identity and access management services to our customer. It seems like everybody's talking about AI ML these days, but to do artificial intelligence and machine learning, you need to get your data in order. You need to clean, transform, and improve the quality of the data that you have. And this is where we come into the picture. We use modern big data engineering technologies and modern data lake architectures on structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data to ETL the data and get the data ready for downstream analytics, machine learning, and AI. And we have provided these services to the US Patent and Trademark Office, where we created their first big data project by ingesting, transforming, and loading the data from their siloed database into a format that allows for downstream analytics. And we also improved their existing machine learning models so that they run 80% faster. We also supported the US Department of Veterans Affairs with agile design and development for VBA education applications, such as the post 9/11 GI Bill, VA Identity and Access Management, and the joint VA-DoD Interagency Comprehensive Plan. We are supporting the US Census Bureau-sponsored Opportunity Project, which uses government data to build digital tools for the public good. We supported 2 of their sprints. One of them is the workforce development in Puerto Rico, where we built a tool for the veterans of Puerto Rico. And more recently, we built an API for the FDA so that the social determinants of health data can be integrated into the existing EHR software. We are currently supporting the DHS iSwift contract in the area of RPA and are using UiPath to automate some of their deployment processes. Finally, we recently submitted a pitch to the NSF and were invited to submit a full proposal to the NSF CBIR Phase 1 program to address the mental health needs using machine learning and NLP. Our guest speaker today is Jennifer Thabet. She's the Program Director, Small Business Program Office at the DARPA. Ms. Thabet is an experienced program manager with an extensive background supporting DARPA and DoD. In her role as a program director for DARPA Small Business Programs Office, she's enhancing the ability of the small business community to create and transition revolutionary technologies that benefit the warfighter, federal government, and commercial marketplace. She's focused on creating an environment that considers small business concerns a primary source of innovation and advancing small business relationships and training opportunities within the DoD and other federal agencies. Ms. Thabet holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Washington University in St. Louis, a JD from the George Washington University School of Law, and a PMP certification from the PMI. And without further ado, I'd like to transfer you to Jennifer Thabet. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. This is really wonderful to be here. Hopefully everyone's alive and awake after a nice long holiday weekend. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about DARPA. Today, I'll talk a little bit about our mission and how we're structured. And then I'll talk a little bit about our SBIR and STTR program, because I think that's a great entryway for new businesses engaging with DARPA. So we'll go to the next slide, please.
Jennifer,
Awesome.
before you talk, if I may interrupt, there's a poll that's up on your screen, folks. If you will please answer the questions. It's just quick questions here for the DARPA team to get some feedback as well. So please answer the poll. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, please do. It's always nice to know who's in the audience, and it helps me kind of structure the presentation a little bit. But let's get started. DARPA's mission. So DARPA's mission is to prevent and create strategic surprise. As you can see from this slide, right, we are developing breakthrough technologies and capabilities for national security. We don't make things, we don't buy things, we don't build things. What we do is we fund research. We're looking far out to see what that next great breakthrough is. So we gave you such things as the internet. You're welcome, I'm sorry. Siri, self-driving cars. A lot of people know that DARPA did a lot of great things, but I'll tell you, a lot of people don't know that as a DARPA small business from the 1980s that created that little integrated chip that enables Wi-Fi in all of our smartphone and headphone devices, like our wireless AirPods. DARPA really does try to think really far out to find out what's next. And so part of that means that I get to go and speak to people like you and find new non-traditional performers or new people that have just never worked with us before and listen to you and hear your ideas to hopefully partner with you going forward. So let's go to the next slide, please. So how do we stay ahead of state-of-the-art technology, and how do we do this? DARPA is composed of 6 technical offices. They're on your screen, and they kind of go from more basic research sciences on the left side to more technical as you move through. Each of these offices has their own thrust areas. I will say this is our current thrust areas for each of the offices. But in order to stay ahead of state-of-the-art technology, we always have to be looking at our offices to make sure that our thrusts are keeping up with that. So this is what we have right now, but I will say it's always best when you want to engage with DARPA to check our website to see if anything has evolved, grown, or shifted. We are composed of a slew of program managers that are here for term appointments. And so our thrust areas are developed based on their visions and their capabilities and their research interests. Our biological technologies office and our defense sciences tech offices are more of the basic research. In fact, our defense sciences office, they call themselves kind of DARPA's DARPA. They are the creative branch of DARPA, really doing the basic sciences. Our information innovation office and our microsystems technology office are starting to get a little deeper and technical. And then our strategic technology and our tactical technology office, those are really more of our tactical offices. They tend to do larger projects. But I will tell you that at DARPA, every year we do about 27 to 29% of our budget annually working with small businesses. And use of small businesses is fairly even throughout each of these tech offices. Use of our SBIR program, use of seedlings and other small business efforts are pretty steady there. So all of these tech offices give you a great entry point for working with DARPA. Go to the next slide, please. So what is special about DARPA? You saw that video. You can kind of tell there's a uniqueness about DARPA. We are actually a $4 billion plus funding agency. Now our budget has gone up and it is going to continue to go up. Really focused on revolutionary change. We do a lot of high risk, high reward. In fact, our director says that we don't fail enough. She says if all of our programs are successes, then we're obviously not pushing the limits of science and research far enough. And that's pretty unique for a government agency. We really do have a high risk tolerance. So how do you do that? You do that by bringing in program managers. You see we're a program manager centric organization. You bring in program managers for term appointments, which I alluded to on the slide before. These program managers come in for 3 to 5 years. And the reason for that is simple. If we want to stay up on state-of-the-art technology, we can't do that by having the same researchers in these seats. We have to rotate in program managers. Our program managers really drive what we are looking at and where we're going with our research and technology. We also do what's called a just-in-time topic development, which is unique for government agencies, meaning we develop programs and we release them as they're ready, which is very different than other government agencies. I'm looking at the chat too. Sorry if I'm going back and forth. I will try to answer everyone's questions as they come through on the chat, and if not, we'll do them at the end. But basically, DARPA is a super unique agency because we're kind of the agency that says we are going to look far out and we are not afraid to fail. I mentioned that we do about 27 to 29% of our work with small businesses. Well, there's a reason for that, right? Because small businesses are the ones that we partner with because they're the ones that aren't afraid to take some of those innovative risks. Before the pandemic, I used to say that, you know, these small businesses, if they didn't take a risk, they may not be here in a year or two. But the pandemic has really changed everything, right? These small businesses, right? If you don't take some of these risks, you may not be here in 6 months. You're exactly the type of people that we're looking for because we want those innovative ideas. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do we work with businesses with DARPA? This slide kind of highlights 3 various ways that we do that. The first column on the left is our programs. That's the traditional way of working with DARPA. Our program managers, hence the name, the word program in the title, our program managers come to DARPA to do programs. Those are larger efforts that are typically maybe 3 to 5 years in duration. Those are efforts where typically we have anywhere from 2 to 5 maybe performers on a program, and each one of those prime performers has other companies or universities that partner with them. The middle column you see is challenges. That's another way to do business. That's when we have an answer, we have a problem and we try to have an answer to a question that we might need closer in time. And you can see some of our challenges that are listed up there. Our 2 most recent challenges, one is the DARPA Triage Challenge, which we announced last year at one of our DARPA Forward conferences. And then our newest one you can see is the AICC, which is a cyber challenge. And that's a challenge that we announced this summer at Black Hat in Las Vegas, which will have a funded track for SBIR small businesses. The funding, the SBIR actually has just closed on that. And then we'll have an unfunded track for other competitors. And we'll do semifinals next summer and finals the summer after that in 2025. The third way that we engage, which is probably the way that most of you may begin your journey with DARPA, is through smaller efforts. Our seedlings, our SBIR STTRs, our explorations. Those are smaller efforts, typically of shorter duration, lower dollar value, but those are efforts that typically a small business can do on their own, or maybe just with a few subcontractors working with them. So today, I'm actually going to focus on the SBIR and STTR program because that's a great entry point for small businesses. But just know from that column on the right, we do seedlings and we do explorations. And you can see some of the explorations down at the bottom. Our Microsystems Technology Office has one. Our Defense Sciences Office has an exploration. So does our Information Innovation Office as well, just to name a few. So let's go to the next slide and let's dive into our SBIR program a little bit. So our SBIR program is very unique, like everything at DARPA. We do things a little differently than other government agencies. So those of you that may be familiar with the SBIR or STTR program, or maybe familiar with it through NIH, NSF, or even the DoD, we operate ours a little differently. We have, I would say, 4 unique pillars that make our program a little unique, and I will kind of go through them. We do what's called a just-in-time topic release for our programs. So keeping in mind that my DARPA program managers are here on a limited tenure, and as I told you 2 slides ago, that we release topics for programs when they're ready, we do the same thing with our SBIR and STTR program. So whereas the DoD has 3 predetermined dates throughout the year where they release SBIR and STTR topics, at DARPA, we don't do that. We post our topics through an out-of-cycle BAA that the DoD issues, meaning that when our topics are ready, we put them out on the street. And we do that for a lot of reasons. The first reason is, since our program managers are only here for 3 to 5 years, if I were to hold a topic for them because they missed the DoD release date, that could really impact the work and the progress that a small business can make during that program manager's tenure. But more importantly, we release our topics just in time because it allows us to tie our SBIR and STTR programs, our topics, to larger DARPA programs. And what that does is it affords SBIR performers on a topic that's hooked to a larger technical program a lot of the same opportunities that they would have if they were on a larger program. So what do I mean by that? It means it helps us have one meeting quarterly or monthly between the performer and the program manager and other performers that are working on a similar topic, so that then we can have transition discussions. We can have discussions about where you will go next. Remember I said DARPA doesn't make anything, build anything, buy anything. DARPA is where you start. It's where that R&D starts, but it's not going to be where you end. So our goal is to help you develop your research to a point where you have a successful prototype or the startings of a successful prototype that can take you from DARPA somewhere else to continue that work. So tying our topic to DARPA programs really helps with that transition. The other thing that we do that's different is we have a program manager-centric topic process. I always struggle when I talk about this because to me it seems so basic that if we are going to release a SBIR topic, that one of the technical program managers at DARPA oversees the topic. But the honest truth is that just doesn't happen at other government agencies. Some government agencies will issue SBIR and STTR topics based on the thrust areas that are important to them. And once that topic is out on the street, maybe they'll find the technical point of contact to run the program. Or once they've gone through source selection with a whole bunch of reviewers, then they'll find someone to run the topic. That seems to work for other agencies. It does not work here. What we do is our program managers dream up the idea. They draft the topic. They review proposals. They administer the topic. They partner with our small businesses to run their SBIR. And what that does, again, is really give a lot of support to the business. They partner with you to make you successful, and then it helps us set you up more for transition. It's something that to me just seems such a simple thing, but it makes such a big difference. You have the buy-in from your program manager at the start, meaning they really believe in this topic and they want to help you succeed. The fourth thing that we do is we have a pilot program, which is our SBIR XL pilot. I'm going to talk about that in a few slides when I get to my toolbox slide. But basically, this program is the largest SBIR, highest SBIR dollar value award in the government that has no prerequisites for working with us. So I'm going to get to that. But before I do, let's go to the next slide for a bit, because what people always like to talk about is money. What are we talking about? Because every government agency does it different. So the SBIR and STTR program is a congressionally mandated program by Congress. And the policy directive gives us caps for what we can do for funding. So the middle column on this slide talks about the caps for each of the phases. Every agency then takes those and does something a little different. A couple of slides back, you saw our budget. I didn't address it there because I wanted to address it here. My budget is about $125 to $130 million for SBIR and STTR programs each year. So in order to maximize that funding, we typically will do $275,000 for a phase 1 feasibility study. And I will say the average is about 10 months. Some of them are as short as 6 months. Some of them could be as long as 12 months, but our average is really about 10 months for that. Our phase 2s, we tend to do at about $1.8 million. And they do tend to be about 24 to 36 months. We have a healthy phase 2 enhancement or matching program where we will match up to $500,000. The thing that I want you to kind of focus on this slide is those last two bang boxes. Phase 2 values, they can always exceed those numbers if there's funds available and if we have a waiver. And sometimes what we do at DARPA is so specific and so unique that I need to go over 1.8 or rather $1.9 million to run the phase 2. We work with the SBA and get a waiver. You'll know when we put the topic out what we think the value of that SBIR or STTR is. The other thing to note, and this applies across all of the federal government, is that there's no cap on the amount of non-SBIR and STTR funding that can be put on a topic. Meaning these caps in the middle column are the amount of congressionally designated SBIR and STTR funding that can go on an effort. But frequently at DARPA, we'll start with a $1.8 million award, and that is not where we'll end. You heard me talk on the last slide about how important transition is and how partnering with a program manager and tying a SBIR topic to a larger program helps with transition. Well, the other benefit that comes from doing a lot of that is we'll get other government agencies to put money on our SBIR and STTR topics to help us with transition. They can put any amount of money on it as long as it is not congressionally earmarked SBIR or STTR funding. So a lot of times at DARPA, 1.8 million is where we'll start for a phase 2, but it is not where we end. And I'll show you a video in a couple of slides to kind of show you how that works. But let's dive into slide 9, the next slide, please, to talk through a little bit about our program. So I've already talked about the 4 ways that it's unique. We talked about funding. Now I'm going to talk about the flexibility of this program. I said we did 27 to 29% of our budget with small businesses. That goes well beyond our SBIR and STTR program. But we have a really healthy SBIR and STTR program, probably one of the healthiest ones I would say in the federal government, because I've taught the program managers and they have just embraced it on the flexibility of this program. What you'll see on this slide applies to the rest of the DoD as well. But at DARPA, with the exception of the SBIR XL pilot, but at DARPA, we do it. We do it really well. So phase 1s and direct to phase 2s are how we release our topics. SBIRs and STTRs can either be released as a phase 1. If they are a SBIR and not an STTR, we have authority to skip phase 1 and go to direct to phase 2, as long as a feasibility requirement has been satisfied. So those are the 2 ways that we'll post topics. But then at DARPA, we get pretty creative. So going down to the middle part of the slide, let's go to the left side, sequential or concurrent phase 2s. A lot of companies don't realize that every SBIR or STTR can have up to 2 phase 2s. That's right, up to 2. They can be sequential, they can be years apart, or they can even be concurrent. So thinking through that my program managers are here on limited tenure, oftentimes it is not unusual for us to have a company and we have started a phase 2 with them, and the program manager is getting closer to his exit than he would like. And so what we do is we issue a second or concurrent phase 2. What that does is help us get the research farther along so that by the time the program manager maybe transitions out of DARPA, our small business performer has the startings of or has finalized a prototype that we can then transition to another government agency. Sliding across the slide to adoptions, these are also called cross-agency awards. And a lot of small businesses don't realize that this is available to them. Think back to what I said, that every SIB or STTR can have up to 2 phase 2s. So oftentimes you'll start with the government agency, you'll have a phase 1, and maybe you'll have a phase 2, or you won't even get to phase 2. If you have never gotten a phase 2, or if you have only gotten 1 phase 2, you are eligible for adoption. So what that means is another government agency can continue your work where you left off. It's a very simple process where, for instance, DARPA would reach to another government agency and say, we're interested in company XYZ. They had a phase 1 with you or only 1 phase 2. If you are not going to continue, we would like to bring them over to DARPA and do work with them. It is a golden ticket for you. And the reason for that is because if you can identify a program manager at DARPA and say, I had a phase 1 with ARPA-E and it didn't go to a phase 2, but I think this is research that would benefit your portfolio. And by the way, I'm eligible for adoption. What that means is we don't have to put the topic out on the street because competition has already been satisfied when you responded to the first call for topic. And it's an adoption. So that means it is SBIR and STTR money as opposed to non-SBIR and STTR money. In short order, it's my money as opposed to a program manager's money. And as everybody knows, we're always really happy to spend someone else's money. It's an easy sell. Typically, we do anywhere from 25 to, I want to say we did 32 or 33 adoptions this year. And had I had some more money, we probably would have done more. It's a great entry point for small businesses. And it's a quick process because we don't have to put the topic out on the street. We can get companies to submit a proposal, evaluate them and get them on contract. Probably that whole thing from start to finish could be as little as 60 and as most maybe 100 days. That's a lot shorter timeline than having to put a topic out on the street, read a whole bunch of proposals and get to contracting. So it is a very attractive option for our program managers who are here for a limited time and for our small businesses to kind of shortcut the process. Continuing down the line, you have enhancements and co-funds. So I mentioned enhancements a little bit on the slide before. That's our matching program. And we will match up to $500,000 of SBIR and STTR funding when a company has non-SBIR STTR money. Additionally, we do some co-funding. And what that means, and I mentioned that again previously too, is that we will get other money from other agencies. We do that typically for purposes of transition. But sometimes we'll put out a topic and another agency will be interested. So we'll mingle our money and maybe DARPA will fund one award and the other agency will fund the second award. Going down to our last one is our SBIR XL pilot. And let's go to the next slide and then we'll talk about our SBIR XL pilot in a little more detail. So this is our newest tool in our toolbox. And it is a pilot that asks the question, if we give you more money and help define transition and commercialization milestones more clearly at the start, can we help you turn into a successful small business that can scale? Can we transition quicker? Remember what I said at the start of the presentation, that it was that little integrated chip that created Wi-Fi in all of our wireless and smartphone devices? Well, that was a SBIR from the 1980s. We didn't start getting those wireless headphones until much later. So SBIR XL asks the question, if we give you more money and help you earlier with the transition and commercialization milestones, can we shorten that gap? Can we help you bridge that valley of death? What it is a $4 million award ceiling. Remember I said earlier, this is the largest award in the SBIR program in the federal government that doesn't have a prerequisite requirement. Air Force has a large phase 2 called Strap by Tack by, but you had to have already had an Air Force SBIR to be part of it. Army Catalyst has a large award, but you already had to be a recipient of an Army SBIR in order to be considered for that one. SBIR XL is for anybody off the street. Our topics, when we release them, will designate whether they are a SBIR XL topic or not. And what we try to do is a shortened proposal package with a short white paper and a slide deck template telling you what to do. We try to make this barrier for entry a lot lower. We're looking for new non-traditional performers. I think we have done, gosh, I've lost the bubble now, but I think we've done about 10 And of those that have gone through source selection and award, I think all but 2 have now gone to brand new DARPA SBIR performers. The goal through this pilot is not just only to shorten that transition time, but to try to attract new companies to come work with us. So let's go on to the next slide and talk through something I've talked about a little bit here, right, which is transition. So why I always suggest that the SBIR and STTR program is a great place to start for new businesses working with DARPA is because the SBIR program has very clear directives for us. The SBIR program is the largest source of early stage tech financing in the US. But what Congress understood and what the policy directive for SBIR makes clear is that we can't just simply give you money and help R&D. We have to help you transition. We have to help figure out where you're going to go. Again, as I said it before, right? We don't make anything, we don't build anything, we don't buy anything. We fund research. And what good is that research if we can't help set you up for success? So this slide kind of talks through a little bit about what we do. So as part of our SBIR program, we have a transition and commercialization support program. And what we do is we'll partner with our small businesses and try to help them figure out where their next steps are. Let's go on to the next slide, please. DARPA is unique. I've talked about how unique DARPA is, so our transition pathways are going to be unique. There's not one size fits all. What I aim to do is give our SBIR and STTR performers, I call them legs. I give them legs so that by the time they've graduated from our program, they can walk out of DARPA and they have a place to go. So we do this by multiple pathways. I will put our small businesses in front of end users and primes. I do that typically even before any of them are comfortable with. We do that early and often, and early engagement is the key. At DARPA, we start at a very low TRL level. We are at basic concepts. And so before we get too far down that pike, it's good to hear from primes and end users about the utility. Oftentimes I find that our researchers are so ingrained in the research that maybe they can't see the forest through the trees. And so it's good to have those conversations where an end user, maybe a DoD agency says, wow, I love what you're doing, but if you could adjust this minor tweak, you'll have a prototype that can fit perfectly with this other thing that we're building. So those conversations are really important. We do a lot of what I'll call technical interchange, or TIMs, technical interchange meetings with big primes. We just completed a whole series of them with BAE Fast Labs, where we put about, I think it was 13 or 14 of our small businesses in front of them to talk through what they were doing. And BAE is now engaging in additional conversations with many of them to kind of help them through next steps. We do a lot of work with our commercial strategy team as well at DARPA. Dual use technology is the goal of the SBIR and STTR program. And it is really the goal of DARPA, because the best way to help preserve the investment and the best way to help our research grow is to help you have two different viable pathways. A lot of people don't realize, but the iRumba, or those little iRobots, that was actually from DARPA technology. That was a DARPA SBIR program. Now, clearly that was not what we were designing the program to do, right? But that was a dual use application. And as a result of that, the research and development was able to continue to grow into something viable for that company, not just for the DoD market, but also for the commercial market. So really the goal of this program is to try to give you legs and as many different options and pathways for you to go to. If we can go to the next slide. What I want to do is take a quick break from talking for a minute and show you sort of some opportunities. So I talked on our funding structure page that our $1.8 million SBIR award is typically where we start for phase 2, but it's not where we end. And I talked about that we have lots of conversations and we put our companies in front of agencies, primes, and the like to try to get them more funding. And so I'd like to share this story to kind of show you how this can grow. So let's take a minute. Hopefully the video is going to play, and then we'll come back to sort of wrap this all up. And we need the volume.
To electrify military vehicles.
I'm going to start over. I apologize for that.
It is thrilling to see electric vehicles finally getting a foothold in commercial markets. But because this EV revolution is driven primarily by lithium batteries, it is difficult for the Department of Defense to electrify military vehicles. I'll share with you 3 DoD mission needs where lithium batteries currently fall short: readiness, resupply, and safety. In forward operating areas, we maintain a state of constant readiness. When a vehicle is out of power, we need to be able to refuel in 15 minutes or less. We operate all over the world, including places where there is no power grid. So we bring with us all of the energy we need to power our vehicles and our generators. We've all seen the dramatic pictures of electric vehicles on fire. This is dangerous at home, but it is more dangerous when you're being shot at. We could better meet each of these DoD mission needs if we had an inherently safe, high energy dense liquid battery that we could resupply and pump like gasoline. This is why the research that we've been funding with Influent Energy is so exciting. Flow battery technology has been around since at least the 1960s and are well known for their safety, practically unlimited cycle life, and low cost. But because liquids cannot hold as much energy as solids, typical flow batteries are not energy dense and are too big for electric vehicles. Influent's innovation is that they are introducing a solid liquid hybrid material using solid nanoparticles stably suspended in liquid electrolyte. This nanoelectric fuel has the high energy storage capacity of solids in a pumpable liquid format, dramatically shrinking the size of the flow battery to something we can put in an electric vehicle. With this high energy dense liquid battery, we can quickly refuel and resupply using the same model we do today by trucking in the nanoelectric fuel to forward operating areas. One of the most exciting properties of this novel fuel is that it is inherently safe. Not only will it not burn, but the aqueous electrolyte will actually put fire out. The potential commercial applications for this technology should not be understated. Imagine driving your personal electric vehicle to a refueling station, pumping the old battery out, and refueling with a new fully charged battery and driving off in 5 minutes, not 5 hours. The infrastructure for both supply and distribution already in place for gasoline could be repurposed. And since the battery is never consumed, sustainment supply chains are nearly eliminated. This technology is the first I've seen that could lead to a truly sustainable, well-to-wheel energy solution.
Without DARPA's continued support to maintain our efforts, it would be impossible to move the needle on a much-needed disruption to the status quo in energy storage research and development. And only through the SBIR program can out-of-the-box thinking and concepts come to fruition. The SBIR program exists to de-risk blue sky projects, has a long history of doing so, and is critical to our continued success.
All right, thank you. So I always like to show that video. Influent is on their second phase 2 with DARPA. And because what they do is so unique, we got a waiver to exceed the base of the award for Influent for their second phase 2. And because we took them on the road, I took them to South by Southwest in March of 2022. And because I took them on the road and I put them in front of end users and primes, they have received another $3.4 million of funding, and then they have $2 million additional dollars in commitments once they reach milestones. So that's where I say this is where we start, but it's never really going to be where we end with the right type of backing from the program manager and commitment for transition. So ways to get started. I like to kind of include this slide. I'll gloss over it because I'm assuming they will send the slides out. Right, but these are kind of the ways to get started for small businesses: programs, challenges, seedlings, SBIRs, and tech office BAAs. These are some tips and tricks, but really let's go to the next slide to get into the meat of it a little bit. Where to start? It's always good to begin by visiting our website. And I saw one of the questions already in the Q&A that asked about how do you engage with program managers if the one you've been working with is gone. that their tenure has expired and they've left. So begin your journey by checking out our website. We keep our website up to date. And so we're posting the tech offices, the thrust for the tech offices, and the program managers. Identify that right program manager or program managers and reach to them. Say, I've got a project you might be interested in. DARPA is PM-centric, as I said, meaning it's our program managers that are deciding what's important and what areas we want to focus on. So how do we do that? How do you get them to listen to you and do a program in your area? You do that by engaging with them. The way to do that is to use the Hallmark Catechism. It's a series of questions that are somewhat basic, but they're things that maybe we gloss over. What problem are you trying to solve? What are the key challenges? What is state of the art? What will success look like? When our program managers pitch a program idea, they have to answer these questions to kind of show why it's important. When you reach to them, I encourage you to think in ways of the Hallmark Catechism and write a short paragraph or two answering these questions about why your research would help supplement them. But let's go to the next slide. I say this, but I know that it can be challenging and overwhelming. And I know that working for a government agency can seem like a black box. DARPA is a small, agile agency. At any given time, we only have about 115 to 120 technical program managers. It is really easy to navigate and figure out who you should talk to that maybe has an interest in what you're doing. But still, sometimes that's easier said than done. And so recognizing that, at DARPA, we started a Partnership Intermediary Agreement, or a PIA, where we have partnered with the Applied Research Institution, and DARPA Connect was born. DARPA Connect is an initiative that we offer that is really designed to break down barriers to entry for non-traditional performers. We do a series of regional and virtual pop-ups. Our next one is November 3rd in Mississippi. Registration is open. To go in person, it's a small fee, it's just a meal fee, or you can sign up virtually. And it's a whole day-long event teaching you how to engage. We also have a lot of networking activities. And then coming late fall is going to be an online curriculum that you can sign up and walk through to learn how to engage with DARPA. We're designing the curriculum very thoughtfully, where it's not just about how to engage with DARPA, but there'll be contract management tips and tricks, what to think about, what to think through when you're looking at a broad agency announcement, or what proposal pitfalls should you be avoiding. There'll also be modules on security. How do you understand security? Those issues. I would encourage all of you on the call to sign up for DARPA Connect and get on their mailing list. They will send you information about upcoming events. They'll let you know when the curriculum is launched. And it's just a resource there to help you. They will even help you with your Hallmark Catechism. If you want to reach to a program manager, but you're not sure you got the wording right, send DARPA Connect an email and they will talk with you. If you're not sure who you should reach to DARPA Connect and they'll help you. So the email address is on there. It's darpaconnect@darpa.mil. Please, please, please do sign up because they are there to help you engage with us. We can only continue to do 27 to 29% of our work with small businesses if we help you engage, if we break down those barriers to entry for you and make it easier for you to work with us. So I think I'm going to leave it there so that we have a couple minutes for questions. The next slide has some information and a QR code. So if we could just click on that real quick. If you scan that QR code, it will take you to a host of websites that are very helpful for you. Not just for working on the DARPA small business, the SBIR program, but also the SBIR program in general and DARPA in general. And then I think at this point, we can probably turn it over to Q&A. I thank you guys for allowing me the time to ramble and speak about our program.
Well, it definitely wasn't a ramble. It was information-packed and really interesting. So thank you so much for that. Prashant, I don't know if you've been monitoring the Q&A box and you want to pick a question. I'm going to start with a question, and then in the meantime, Prashant can see if there are topics. The main thing that I'm sure companies want to find out is where does the topic come from? Who drives it? Who is DARPA's customer? And how can a company start there versus waiting for DARPA to throw a topic out?
Well, okay, that's a great question, right? So remember I said DARPA is PM centric. Our PMs come up with those topics. And how do they do that? Sometimes they come in the door with the idea for the topic, or sometimes they will be on a site visit. They'll be visiting a DoD installation. The thing to keep in mind at DARPA is that we holistically serve the warfighter, right? We are not your typical DoD agency. We are not just focused on, satellites, drones, all that stuff. We are holistically serving the warfighter. That's why we have a biological technologies office. Little known, but very true fact, neuroscience was never studied in the federal government until DARPA said there is a need to study neuroscience. We've studied PTSD because soldiers coming back from combat are more likely to die by suicide than those that weren't in combat. So we are holistically serving the warfighter. So when you think about where our customer is everybody, because the warfighter is also those everyday people. So don't limit yourself to think you have to only be dealing with cyber or satellites or drones. Look at our programs. And I think if you scroll around our website, you'll get an idea of the things that are interesting to us. But I think that's the best thing to keep in mind, the holistic approach to serving a warfighter.
So, thank you, Prashant. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a question from John Levy. He says, my company is Picks and Shovels. We provide communications and engineering support services as opposed to the next big thing or next great technology concept. How do we engage with DARPA?
That's a great question. And I saw that one come through. So at DARPA, we do a lot of R&D, right? So as opposed to the next big thing, that may not be your thing, but there's only 115 or so program managers at this agency, and we do a lot. And so what might be interesting to you is the support side of our house. We have a very robust support contractor system. I want to say that we have over 300 or so contractors that work in our IT group alone. I think my suggestion you do would be to find out about our support contracting and see where you could fit in and get involved. DARPA has several hundred, if not, we may be up to 1,000 of support contractors that really help make all of this possible. So if you have questions about that and can't find anything, send a message to my team at saber@darpa.mil and they can help on that.
Thank you. Another question from Anupam Dukenya is, does all the research need to be done in the US only?
So it really depends on the topic, and that will be specified in every broad agency announcement.
Okay. Alan Ma has a similar question to the first one. How does a cyber services company that is a small disadvantaged business support DARPA?
Well, that's a great question. So our Information Innovation Office, I2O, would be the area where I would suggest you investigate. And I2O is actually the office that is supporting that AICC Cyber Challenge. They have smaller efforts that are also posted, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking. I think it's called AI Next, maybe their new initiative that would help you get in the door. But it is really just doing your research, finding the program manager or program managers that would have an interest in having a conversation, and they take it from there.
Another question.
I can step in, Prashant, please. I have a question here. Jennifer, does DARPA sunset their larger topics? If a company wants to begin or start investing in R&D topics, it takes a long time, and they don't want to start by looking at DARPA's website today, looking at a topic, only to find out that a year later, DARPA is no longer interested in that. Does that ever happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we put a program out, that is what we are focused on at that time. And so that program will have a broad agency announcement that is released, and people will propose to that. However, every technical office at DARPA has what we call an open broad agency announcement, an open BAA, and that is open for a year. And that is a great way for small businesses to get involved, where they can drop a proposal into the open BAA that covers one of the thrust areas. And they are vast. They are intentionally broad so that we don't miss anybody. My best piece of advice, though, sign up for DARPA Connect. The best way to get engaged is really to have those phone calls with government, with the technical program managers. Now, I know that could seem daunting and overwhelming, but there's only 115 of them. Call them, call them or send an email and they will respond to you because they get ideas, not just by visiting installations and whatnot. They get ideas from talking to small businesses for topics and programs. And if we have a program out on the street and you're not quite there with technology, but you have research that you think could help it, they may say, drop a proposal into the open BAA and maybe I'll fund you a seedling. Or maybe then that will give them an idea for a different use of their program and they'll draft a SBIR and STTR. I always tell small businesses, unlike other government agencies, what's stopping you from engaging with us if you're doing DARPA research is you, because they want to hear from you and they want to engage.
Another
Thank
question.
you.
Oh,
Go ahead, Prashant.
yeah, another question from Faye Patterson. Are participants required to have DoD security clearances?
Oh, that's a great question. It depends is the answer. There are many, many programs at DARPA that do not require you to have a security clearance. In fact, many of our programs, if you see a broad agency announcement on the street, you're not required to have a security clearance. They will tell you if you have a clearance, we will release our topics that are cleared or classified on other means. Every program, though, regardless of whether it is a classified or unclassified program, does have a security officer that is assigned to it, so you can ask questions of them. But no, you are not required to have a security clearance to work with DARPA.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that question because a lot of companies struggle with getting security clearance. If they work with DARPA, can they get sponsored for a security clearance?
So it is always a possibility. That is always a possibility depending on how the research develops and depending on the topic. Additionally, we have a pilot program that is very, very young called Bridges. And Bridges asks the question or attempts to solve the chicken and egg question, I will say. We need innovative risk takers to help us solve these problems, but they're not cleared. And they can't get cleared because they don't have a need to know. And they don't have a need to know because they're not cleared. So Bridges asks the question, can we help these small businesses get cleared long enough that they can hear the problems and give us an innovative solution? I would look it up, just go to our website and look up Bridges to get more information about that. But there is always that possibility. It just depends.
Kudos to DARPA for looking into that. I know small businesses have been struggling with that. So that is really good news.
Yeah.
Prashant, over to you.
Yes, there's one more question from Sarah. So after you fund a project and needs to be manufactured or made, how do you direct the DARPA awardee to other SAM small business to make their products?
So that's a great question. So a lot of that comes down to those transition discussions that we have. Again, DARPA is where you start, it's not going to be where you end. And so knowing that our program managers try to have those conversations with other government agencies to garner interest. The other thing is we expect our small businesses to also be having conversations, whether it be with other government agencies or commercially. Once you've made it through a DARPA program, because they're hard, they're not easy. But they're kind of the golden ticket in and of themselves. You walk away from a DARPA SBIR or a DARPA seedling or a DARPA program, and DARPA has said, we have de-risked this. So it makes it something that is a more attractive investment for other entities, whether it be commercial or military.
I think that covers all the questions.
Prashant, we're getting towards the end and I want to be respectful of Jennifer's time. I do have a couple of other quick questions and then closing remarks, if that's okay. I know there are tons of questions still coming in, but I want to be respectful of your time, Jennifer. A couple of questions that were submitted early. Does DARPA have a tech transfer program where a company might have gone through, decided not to commercialize, but these successful funded programs are just sitting there? Do you talk about those that another company can come in and take over and commercialize it?
So that is a longer answer than we probably had time for, but I will say that is a challenge within the whole federal government to try to help companies grow and commercialize, and is one that many government agencies are addressing in different ways. I mentioned we have a commercial strategy team up at the Pentagon. They have the Office of Strategic Capital, AFWorks, DIU, Army Applications Lab. They are all trying to address that problem. It is all about just having conversations. Typically, if you have a product already, though, you probably are farther along than DARPA would pick you up, but other government agencies would be very interested. And I'm gonna hijack this for a minute, just because there is a question from Eric Hepland that I think is important for everybody about IP considerations. The reason why I encourage companies to start with SBIRs is SBIRs have very strong data rights. SBIRs have 20-year protection for data rights, in that we will only have government purpose rights. And the STTR is not kept up quite as much, but they have 5-year IP data rights. So those are great places for you to start to protect your IP while you're building your company.
Fantastic. That was going to be my last question. I did see that IP question. I think very important. So we were on the same note here. Any closing remarks for the participants and all of us?
I would really just encourage you, please reach out to DARPA Connect. I also run that initiative for the agency, and I can say that it has been a game changer for many small businesses to help them understand how to work with us. So please, DARPA Connect at darpa.mil. If you have questions otherwise that you need help with, SBIR at darpa.mil. That not only goes to me, but it goes to the whole small business programs office team, who are probably the best in the DoD. And so we are really here to help guide you. And I would just like to say thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun. If there are more questions that we haven't answered, send them to the SBIR team and they will try to answer them for you.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and really ton of great information. I hope that people will go back and look at this recording. We will distribute the recording and the slides to everyone. So if you missed something, you want to hear it again, you'll be able to access that. And Prashant, thank you again for your sponsorship and moderating the event. Thank you all for attending as well. On behalf of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce, continue to look for our future webinar announcements. Thank you all. Take care.